All right, so welcome to my photo editing live stream where I edit your photos here live using DxO Photolab 9.5 today. And again, this is not a critique of your photos, so judgment or judging. It's not a contest. Primarily show you the workflow that I use to photo edit in Photolab 9 tools. And every two or three images, I'll stop to answer any questions I see in the chat section. If you'd like me to elaborate or expand on any of the tools that I use, I'll be happy to do that for you. I like to think of this as, best way to show you, how to use Photolab rather than, cherry picking some making a short video. I have a few here, so I'm just going to sort a little bit. As some of you sent your edits in already. Let me show you the screen. And I am an affiliate for DxO. So if you're new to Photolab and you're running the trial or would like to download a free trial, there'll be links down below. My coupon code RobTrek to get a 15% discount. But you need to click my affiliate link first, and then you can use the discount font. Start here at one from Hans, like some kind of rat. I don't know what this is. Prairie dog, maybe. I can't think. It looks familiar. But when I open an image, the first things I look at are sort of the global change that I would make: exposure, composition, cropping, straightening horizon, white balance. I have sort of those things in mind. I I then just pretty much go right to editing, doing local adjustments. So in this image here, it looks just a little bit off. So I'm going to tilt it to the right that the animal's kind of sitting more straight up. I'm sorry. One other thing is I have presets made. I have one here called Rob's Default. And what that does is it applies the optical correction, noise reduction, you know, other thing. Really just get the image to a baseline to start with. Optical corrections and noise reductions are kind of the core technologies of Photolab. Works better than any other photo editing software out there. Okay, that's why I use Photolab. Just going to straighten this a bit. He looks about right. Off by 5 degrees. That's quite a bit. And then let me crop this in a way that balances the images overall. And I keep the composition thought on that is very simple. Right? We're trying to take a two-dimensional image, give it some depth, try to give a feel for three. So the rule of thirds, or this grid that we see here, does a pretty good job of that, where, some images I can do foreground, midground, background. I also like to balance the lighting. So if there's very dark areas or very bright areas, I try to balance that. Also, subject itself, I like to place it just right amount of negative space around the subject out. So, and then you can make sort of subjective choices like, do you want the subject to be kind of more to the left, more to the right? Now, conventional wisdom is, you want to have more room on the left side of where face is going, right, looking. I found a lot of times the composition to the right looks good where you have that sort of the empty space behind. And it all depends on what's in the frame. Kind of leaning towards this left side. can change the ratio. I like to use standard cropping 4:3. So now the head is right in the center. I take off a little bit of space on the top so it's even here. Yeah, I think that works best. Just front and center. Now with animals, I typically, eyes, ears, eyes, ears, nose, and then also any claws or feet, talons. These kind of things I like to emphasize on. So this one I can see the eyes are very dark. So a lot of times, you know, you can pull out a little bit of the pupil by brightening it up. I'll use a control point for this. I always drop the control point, the color that I want to color or luminance, brightness I want to adjust. As you can see, the masking now mostly on the brown area. I drop the control point right on the eye, so the darkest part, and I spread it out just a little bit. I like the whole area around to be a little bit brighter. It just looks a little more natural. I'm gonna go down here now, brighten that up and see if there's a side there. A bit of pupil in there. Now, when I do this, the contrast drops down a little bit. I like to make the eyes look shiny and glossy, and Clearview does a good job. Also, a little micro contrast just to make the specular stand out more, give it just a little bit more crispiness. So, just a quick comparison. That's before. Now, you don't want to overdo it and make the eyes glow, right? So, uh, just be conscious of that. Now, this animal doesn't have much of an ear or nose to speak of, but I will just add a little bit of light there. I'm gonna create a new mask. Now, if I just click here, it's going to duplicate the same control point and settings that I used for the eye on. Sometimes that's fine. It works pretty okay for this. I'm also going to try the nose. Yeah, I think that's pretty well. Just do a quick before and after. That looks pretty good. Now, the claws here are already pretty well lit. I think all they need is just a little bit of shine to them. I'm going to make a new mask, and I like to be very deliberate. I always use the buttons that sub mask here. Control point is still selected, but now when I select it, it doesn't duplicate the settings that I used before. This is a totally new control point. Click kind of around in here. Just going to add some clear view and micro contrast just to make the claws just a little bit crispier. So we can do a quick comparison without any adjustments with the adjustment. So I think right there is already a pretty big improvement. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to separate the subject itself a little bit more from surroundings. Clearly, the subject here is prairie dog. I don't know. If anybody knows, let me know in the chat section. But so I'm going to use the AI selection tool here, create a new mask. I'm just going to select whatever that is. The way I like to separate things is typically by using luminance or brightness. So I like the subject to be about a half a stop brighter than the background. Now, in this image, the animal itself is actually about a half a stop darker than the rest of the, maybe even a full stop. Add half a stop here. Go to the global setting here for adjustment. A half a stop. Do a little more. Go back to my local adjustment. Brightness. Okay. I don't want to overdo it because it'll look like I cut and paste the animal into the scene. I want to try to keep within one stop overall, here or there, generally speaking. I think that looks pretty good. The other thing I can do is I can blur the background a little bit more too. So what I need to do is create a new mask. I'm going to create two submasks. Create a mask for the animal so that it doesn't get blurry. Mask that will blur the entire image, but I'm going to separate the animal from the entire image. So first I'm just going to use, what do they call this tool? Linear gradient? Oh, a graduated filter. But for people that are coming from Lightroom, this is basically a linear gradient. I'm going to drag that down about here. And I'm very conscious of the focal plane. The focal plane is this animal. That's where the focus is. But then the focus falls off as you go towards backgrounds. That's why I'm using a gradient. I'm going to come down to about here. Now, if there was a lot of foreground, I might have to add a second gradient for foreground. In case there's not much, everything's in focus. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom here, there is a blur tool. I try to do this not more than 10, probably about about. Okay, so you can see that it blurred the animal. So I can take the animal out. I call this the hole puncher tool, but technically it's called the invert. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sub. I'm going to go over here to select the animal again. Then I'm going to just use this hole puncher tool or invert shape. Take him out. I think that looks pretty good. Do a quick comparison. I'm sorry, I need to compare it with the. Okay, very good. So we're almost there. Now, there's a lot of light coming in the background. I just pull the exposure a little bit. Go back to the global, a bit too dark. Brighten there, darken the animal. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is zoom in using the loop tool. We're going to check the fine details here. Not bad. I think I can add a little bit more optimization on the sharpening. Go here to the detail panel. Up. XD2. Oh, I didn't download the optics module. Little green arrow here. Let me download that real quick. That's one of the core technologies. You're going to see this area sharpen up quite nicely with the optics module. That a second. See, there's quite a few more I have to do. A lot of new cameras today. That's all. Okay, so let's see. That cleaned it up nicely. A little bit too crispy, so I'm back off the out to about. All right, I think that's just about perfect. We're all done. So I'm gonna export this. Original image folder. I like to add a suffix DxO, so that's the process. I'm going to resize it. I'm going to use sRGB. Heather says it's just a squirrel, huh? Okay. Having some matcha tea. Now, if you want to check the progress of the export, you can click on this little right arrow and you'll see a little progress bar. First one takes always a little longer, but for that, it depends how many edits that I do, particularly using it. But anywhere from like 5 seconds to about 20 or 30 seconds, what I get. Okay, so let's reset this. Compare it to the image I created just now, export, which is called the output, side by side. And I'm going to hit the F9 key to push the panels to the side. So here's the original. It's uncropped. And here's the edit. I think the only thing I might change, just do one more thing. So hit Control Z, this back to all my edits. Creature, the squirrel, looks a little bit flat. Add some vibrancy. Put a little more color. Vibrancy down, saturation. We'll separate the colors a little better, I think. Very, very subtle, but that's the direction I want. All right, let's do that. So I'm going to export that and create it. And again, I'll check the progress bar here. Hopefully this time it'll go a little faster. But yeah, I did it in like half the time. Now let's reset. Comparison. And there you have it. I think that came out pretty nice. Okay. So the audio is not good. Well, there is something wrong with the audio. Hold on. Check something. But uh-oh. Yeah, this is the right mic, right? Right mic set. Check my settings. This is the problem with streaming. Every time I go online, there's something. This off. Okay. We'll turn this. I do see it's a little bit low. I don't know why. If I turn it to this, because it was perfect yesterday. And I don't see any other. I don't see any other settings here. Hmm. So you guys can hear me now. Well, yeah, there is something wrong with my settings. I don't think I can change them while I'm live. So I can change that setting. And my audio output looks good. I think that's the best I can do while we're here. Okay, so the sound is better now. It looks almost okay, but not quite. All right, let's go back to the editing. Okay, so this one is from Cynthia, and she only wants a critique of this photo, so it's already been edited. And I see she's what, a Nikon D7500. Oh, wow. Nice DSLR. One of the last, I think, APS-C cameras from Nikon that was a DSLR. And 1 to 50 at 18 millimeter. All the settings look good, so nothing to critique there in terms of settings. And yeah, I think you did a really good job saturating all of the colors and bringing out the details in the leaves, because for me, the most interesting part is all the fine little veins and colors that we get and all the different patterns. So it's a beautiful picture of fall leaves. I really like it a lot. And I don't think really I would do anything differently if I were to take this shot. You know, compositionally, what can you say, right? It's just a pattern. But sometimes, you know, adding a little accent to the image, right? You know, anything that you might have on hand that you can put in the frame. Like sometimes, you know, you'll find some fall. This was taken in November, so you might see like a flower that's fallen off, and you can kind of drop that down in the corner or right in the center. Or if there's a singular leaf that's particularly large that you can find laying around and drop that right in the center, just to kind of create a place for your eye to go. Because in this image here, there's, you know, this is more like a backdrop than it is a photo, right, of something, because there's no distinct subject. So for me, and I'm being, you know, this is very subjective, of course, but for me, I would have probably tried to find one giant leaf. Even this leaf right here is pretty big. Maybe pull that out and put it right in the center, or something else, you know, to put here or in one of the corners, some sort of accent or subject. But other than that, I really like it. Yeah, I mean, really good job on the processing, you know, bringing out the details and the colors, and a good contrast of colors, the reds, the greens, the yellows, and some browns. It's a very nice mix. I think all we need here is a distinct subject, whether it's another giant leaf or a flower or a rock, or what would be really cool to drop in there is if you had like a Polaroid photo that you could drop in the center there. Something like that, you know, a picture frame, maybe just an empty picture frame, right, that you could bring with you and drop on top. Uh, Little things like that to kind of just give a little bit of an accent or flair to what's otherwise a really nice photo. Okay, so let me go over here to Jeff Painter. Nice. Okay, and wow, you whipped out your old 5D Mark II. My goodness. So I'm going to make sure I get the optics module first, the 24-105 f4, very nice lens. And we'll go from here. So let's go ahead and this looks like it's in the same area as the last statue image that you sent. So right away I can see some very strong contrasty light. So I like that. It's a little bit, perspective is a little off. I need to tilt the horizon a bit. And I think I'll do sort of the same thing I did with the last one, is really emphasize the textures and the harsh shadows of this image, and then try to minimize the everything else. And there's some yellow daffodils kind of hanging around too. That's kind of nice. These daffodils, I think, make a nice little accent. I wish they were a little more prominent in the frame and around, but okay, so let's apply a basic preset first. And let me go over here to the, what do they call this? The geometry panel. And let's see if I can just straighten this out. So what I'm using is sort of this line right here. The verticals here. And then of course these are not going to be vertical because of the perspective. You know, we have some keystoning. But I'm just going to just straighten that so that this line is straight right here, because that's kind of in the center, right? And that's the line I want to be straight. Okay, that feels a little better. Let me just move it over a little bit more. Okay. And now on this side, it's a little bit tighter than on this side. That's because of the position, but I'm just gonna crop in a little bit, or crop over, and just balance that somewhat. Okay. Now I'm gonna just do a quick black and white check to see, it helps me see where the tones are. So the editing I'm doing here is just simply to help me see where the light is in the image. So I think something like this, if I want to go dark, or if I can go really bright, because going dark would be one way. I think I'll just go, I'll go a little bit darker. I don't know. I can go softer. Because if I go dark, I get a lot of nice textures, right? But then if I go bright, I think this is more appropriate for the scene. So let me see if I can, I'm going to tilt it a little more. It still feels a little off. Okay, let's go back to color. think I'm going to go bright on this one. And let me go back to the color. So the image is relatively monochromatic already, meaning it's all just mostly greens and whites. So I think I will go black and white. And let me check. So what I might do, let me see if I can temper the highlights just a bit. If I select this, so I'm going to select the individual statues using the AI tool. So I'm holding my shift key and then clicking on each one. Okay. Let's see if I can bring back some of the details. Okay. And some micro contrast and maybe some clear view. Something, I guess that's about right. I'm going to brighten this up some more. Let me look at the color again. Just a little bit tougher than I thought. All right. So let me do one more thing. I'm going to duplicate this entire mask. And let's use a let's go in here and let's just soften up this area behind. Maybe pull a sharpening back, pull a micro contrast back. Something like that. Okay. I'm going to move this inside here. Oops. I'll move this down. And you can drag and drop all the submasks around. I'm going to move this to the bottom. And then let me hole punch all of these out. Okay. here. Okay. Gosh, I'm totally messing this up. And get rid of this one. One distraction there. Go back here. Okay, let me check the color side again. Just not getting what I kind of imagined. What if I blur it a little bit? Oh, okay. I'm going to leave it here. I think I'm not happy with this, but I think I'm going to go with this. Compositionally, the problem I'm having is, I always like a little bit of symmetry, and I'm having trouble balancing and getting symmetry in this image. Ideally, I don't know what's around this, whatever this is, but I would have got right behind this statue and try to line up these around it kind of evenly, so I got sort of a star pattern going around the top of one subject. The way this is framed is you're just kind of walking in to the middle here. So that's why I'm having trouble framing this the way I want. But okay, so let's just compare this to the original. And we'll give that a second to export. It's almost there. Okay. All right, so here's my edit. I tried to minimize everything except the statues. I could have went really dark with some harsh shadows, but that would have really emphasized all of the shadows on the ground. And I wanted to minimize the ground, right? So basically I made those brighter and then made the statues darker sitting on the pillars. And also I think the fact that they're kind of facing down away from the light, kind of implies, that maybe it's very bright outside. I don't know. I'm kind of reaching a little bit, right? But I think that's kind of how I see it. So yeah, this is just kind of one way to go, and it's very easy to separate, the things that you want to separate using the AI tool. But okay, wow, that was a tough one. So I have so many images today. I need to go faster, right? So let's look at this one is duplicate. So let me delete this. So if I want to delete this image, I just hold the Shift and Delete key. You know, I click on the thumbnail, then I can just delete that. All right, so let's go here. This one's here from John. And let's see. That's interesting. There's like leaves growing out of this dead tree, or maybe it's not dead, but that's interesting. I think, yeah, I've seen this scene before. It's changed a little bit since you last sent a picture of this from years ago. But I recognize this fence line, and I think this tree looks very familiar. So let's do a basic preset. And let's just tilt it a little bit so it just feels straight. And then the highlights up here are really strong, so I'm just going to crop that out. I might even just pick a tree. Okay. And then let's use the AI tool and see if we can get that tree selected. Pretty much. I'm going to just add. See if I can add a little bit more in there. Okay. Let's give it a little more color. So I'm going to crank up the vibrancy there. Just temper the highlights a tiny bit. And then let's go up about a half a stop. Go down about a half a stop on the global side. What if we go all the way down? No, that's too much. About a half a stop. Okay, I'm going to go back to the tree. Let's add some micro contrast and clear view. Just give it a little bit more push here. And now I'm just going to brush out some of the areas in here. So I'm going to just create a little bit of light. So let me make a new mask. And I got my flow. Let me change my opacity to 100. I got my flow at 10%, so I can just experiment a little bit. Let me see if I can add a little bit of light here. And let's warm that up a little bit. About 500. Okay. Oh, rather than cranking that all the way up, I can just keep brushing. Use a little bit smaller brush. So what I'm trying to do is create a little bit of depth. Excuse me. So I'm trying to create the front like a foreground to be a little brighter overall. Because before the grass was pretty much even color from front to back. But if I add a little bit of light to the front, I can make the foreground just a little bit, excuse me, stand out just a little bit more. Okay. And then let's add just drops of light here and there. Okay, a little bit there, a little more. And then let's make a new mask. And this time I'm going to use the brush, but I'm going to just subtract light. So let me, I'm just exaggerating the brights and the darks in this image that are already here. Again, just to give some perception of depth. And just a little bit along the foreground. Okay, let me just brush out this little corner here. And I'm going to try to minimize the highlights a little bit. So I'm going to take my eyedropper and just put it on the brightest part up here. So now I'm just masking the lighter areas. And see if I can pull that in a bit. I think that's good enough. Okay, one more time here. Just add a little bit more like that. Okay, let me export that. Okay, so here's the original on the right. And I think the intent was to frame the tree in the middle with the two trees on the left and right. But I think each tree in this image is distinct enough to be their own subject. you know, I was the one in the middle kind of had the best framing in terms of like space around it, like top and bottom. So I kind of like, that's kind of why I picked that one versus the other two. They're cut off a little bit. It'd been nice to get a wider shot of the other two trees, but individually. And you know, for woodland photography, if whenever I see multiple trees, I usually like trying to find some relationship between them where they sort of intertwine with each other and grow in a certain direction or have some cooperation. You know, I'm not really a woodland photographer. I do very little of that, but when I do go out, I try to look for relationships between trees. Now, in this image here, it looks like you're going primarily for the composition and framing. Uh, but subjectively, I prefer to look at individual trees, or if there's multiple trees, their relationship to each other and how they live together, right? Uh, so I just picked out this one tree and just, you know, like I said, I would take these trees separately. But okay, and then I just added some depth, right? Like adding a little bit of light here along the top of the grass and then spots of light here. Preferably the leaves that are closest to the camera, you want to brighten up, and then just darken areas that are already kind of dark, just to give some back and forth on the lighting. And then of course the tree itself, I just added maybe a little bit too much saturation, but other than that, I think it looks pretty good. All right, let's go to the next one here. This one is from Heather. Looks like we have some blue herons. What are they? They're in this brush. Interesting. Okay. So let's start with a basic preset. And we have pretty good separation. We just don't need all of this around here. So let's just crop in. Something like this maybe. And I'm curious if the AI tool can pick these birds out. Almost. Almost. Let's try the rectangle tool. Yeah, that's better. It's picking out a little more than it needs to, but uh, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the brush and let me turn my flow up. I'm just going to try and add back in some of the areas. Oh, I need to make a submask. Submask brush. 100%. Okay, so let's just add in some of this down in here. Maybe subtract this part. Let me crank up my flow. I don't know if that's a branch or part of the bird, or is that another? Oh, that's another heron back there. Okay, let's not highlight that heron. We'll get rid of him. We'll just focus on these two. So let's just add about a half. Go back here and subtract a half. Okay. Let's add a little more warmth to the birds. So we'll go about 500. A little bit of a push in the shadows. And some micro contrast. Maybe a little bit of clear view. And let's brighten them up just a tad more. And then let's give them a little vibrancy. Okay, I'm going to zoom in and let's make a new mask with a control point and see if I can temper these highlights just a bit. Okay, and that one there. Maybe there a little bit. Okay. All right, let's make a new mask and I'm just going to brush. Let me just brush down in here. I just want it a little darker. I can maybe even, what if I desaturate that a bit? No. I can add a little saturation. Just brush a little bit more. Okay. And then let's check the fine details, but I'm almost done with this one. A little bit of softness here. Let's see if we can just crank this up a bit. I'm curious. This is Heather's photo. This lens should be a lot sharper. Do you have like a UV filter or something on the front of your lens, Heather? Because I would take that off. Any kind of filter on the front. It doesn't look like a filter problem though. It's just slightly missed. This lens should be a lot sharper. Something is just a little bit off on this one. I'm not sure what it is. But let me know if you're using a UV filter or something on the front of this lens, because I'm just not getting that crispiness I'm used to seeing from this lens. Because you've sent other images in, I know. Ah, so no filter, huh? Okay. So there is something else. There's something else interfering here. I'm not sure what it is. But I feel like all your settings look fine. The only other thing I might suggest is maybe try turning image stabilization off if you're using 1/4000th of a second. I know it's hard to frame an image when you're zoomed in this much without image stabilization, but maybe try that. I'm just getting a tiny bit of softness here that I just don't think you should be getting with this lens. And then make sure the lens is clear, especially the rear element. Okay, I think that's it. So let's export. Whoops. So check to make sure there's no smudges on the rear element on your sensor, because I feel like there's just a little something interfering with the sharpness of this lens. Okay, let's do a quick comparison. So yeah, they're very far away, but still, I feel like it could have been a little better with this lens. But so yeah, so basically I just emphasize these two birds here, right? in the front. And I did crop in quite a bit. I guess that's part of it. But it might be just slightly misfocused too, but I don't think so. But yeah, I warmed up and added a little contrast to the two birds here in the front, just using the AI tool to select. And then all this brush here is just very distracting. So I just minimized it, but I maintained the highlights in the brush, right? I didn't just darken the brush. I pulled the blacks in and I pushed the highlights up to maintain sort of that perception of luminosity. It hasn't really changed. It's just minimizing using light to keep it out of the, to keep your eye from going down in here, because when you look at this image, your eye goes right here to the brush looking around, and then you see the birds. Whereas this one here, it's pretty obvious the birds are the brightest thing in the frame. Okay, let's go to the next one. And I'm going to download the optics module first. So my guess, Heather, is maybe the image stabilization may have just thrown it off a tiny bit, is what I'm guessing. Because I've seen that in my own images, with image stabilization on and off. Even though they say it shouldn't make any difference, I can see sometimes where I'm getting sort of a double image or softness with the image stabilization turned on sometimes. But anywho, let's so let's apply basic preset here. Yeah, there could be some haze. That's true. If it was kind of a hotter day, especially very humid hot days will do that. That could be it. I didn't even think of that because I'm so freaking cold here. I'm not even thinking about humidity and haze and all of that. Fog, maybe. All right, so we just need front and center for this image here. And let's go ahead and select the spider and just give it a little half push. Give it some clear view and some micro contrast. Oh, not too much. Right there. Ah, Florida. Okay. And let's go to the eyes. So make a new mask. Did I apply my preset? I did not. That's why. Let me apply basic preset. Shoot, I have to start over. And this is a, oh, this is a JPEG. All right, no worries. I was wondering why I was like, I was just, when I crop in, I can see the fine details and I'm like, something's not right. But that's because this is a JPEG. Okay, let's go ahead and just kind of do the same things here. Add a half a stop, maybe a little bit more. And because it's a JPEG, I'm not going to really be able to recover the eyes. But let me see what's in there, if anything. A little bit. Add some clear view and some micro contrast. Maybe this eye too. Okay, let me just go into the fine details because I want to work on some of this noise a little bit. Let's see. We don't have any chroma noise. We'll just work on the luminance. Okay, so that softened up everything, but I'm going to use unsharp mask. And just bring a little bit back. And I don't really have any methodology to using these sliders, but my general workflow for using the unsharp mask is I pick either radius or intensity, and that's where I'm going to use, that's where I'm going to be a little bit more extreme. So I might do radius, and if I don't do radius, then I'll do intensity. So on this image here, because it's, it looks to me like moving the radius is a little bit better than the intensity. But rarely do I do both, intensity and radius, right? I kind of pick one that's going to be sort of the dominant adjustment. And I think in this case, the radius is a little bit more dominant. Okay, let me see. Okay, that's good. I think that's a good compromise between noise and detail. All right. So let me go back over here to the local adjustments. And let's do a linear or a control line in this case. This is a control line. I'm going to tighten up the luminosity and chroma so I'm not hitting the spider too much. Okay. All right, let me go back to the spider and let's just give them a little vibrancy. Maybe a touch of saturation. And a little bit more brightening. Okay. With JPEGs, I don't need to export, so we can just do a side by side. So there's the original on the left. So just a tighter crop and to come in a little closer. Really cool picture though. I've never gotten a jumping spider to get on my hand or finger, let alone try to take a photo at the same time. So this is a really tough shot. I can really appreciate the skill that went into this, or the time, the patience to do a shot like this. All right. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Let's see this one here from Lasse, and thank you, Lasse, for the coffee the other day. Thank you so much. You bought me 5 coffees, man. I really appreciate that. Okay, nice little scene here. Let's see. I don't need the optics module. Let me apply basic preset, and composition wise, I think we have too much here. I don't think I need all of this on the right side. So I'm just going to crop that out. I mean, there's really 2 photos here. There's one here, right, with this boat. And then there's one over here with this barn or shed. So let's bring this in. maybe about here. And again, you know, my basic rule of thirds, right? Foreground, midground, background. It doesn't really apply here because the tree is kind of in the foreground. But I'm trying to balance it. I basically have 1/3 of the tree up in here, 1/3 of the foreground here, and then in the middle here is just, there's not much going on. So let me just do that. I think about right there works. Okay, let me just check if I come out a little bit more. If I can get the barn in the center. I'd like to get a little bit of a diagonal going. Okay, that works. So maybe just a little vibrancy, particularly the reds. Let's push the reds up. And the oranges, but more in the yellow. I'm going to just move that off a little bit and do that. And I'm going to darken the foreground. So I'll just use a control line. I'm going to put this on the snow. Just see if I can temper that a little bit. Add some micro contrast back in. Maybe opposite. Yeah, a little bit. Let's take some micro contrast out of the snow. I'm going to temper this. Some micro contrast and clear view. Okay. I feel like I don't need this much in the foreground. Just look at my composition again. I think a 5x4 might be a better way to go. A little bit more. Ah, perfect. Okay. And then maybe a slight tilt. Okay, let's see if I can bring out some of the clouds in the sky. So we'll make a new mask. We'll do the AI tool. We'll select the sky. Hey, not so good. Let's do it this way with a control line and just crank up the clear view. Push the highlights a bit and some micro contrast. I think that's it. So let me export that. Well, let's just check the fine details real quick. That looks good. That looks good. Maybe just a tiny bit more sharpening. Right about there. Okay. Export that. And we'll compare. So yeah, again, I'm just simplifying the scene down to the core elements, which in this case, it looked like it was this red barn or shed in the background and some of the boats. So in this case, I just tried to keep the one boat there. And this is a different kind of image over here, right? One other thing I need to do over here, actually, now that I'm looking at it, is let's make a new mask. Let's see if we can select the water. And something like that, and make it a little bit cooler. Okay, just a rough thing on the water. Give that a second. All right, now we're done. So there's the before and after, and I think the vertical worked well with this. I like it. Really nice scene. Very, very nice scene. The only other thing I would do to continue editing is maybe emphasize some of the reds here and the reds that I see up in the trees here. Damn it, I can't help myself every time I look at it, because it's something I can do very quickly with a brush. Let me turn my flow down. There's definitely some really nice reds happening in here. Add a little warmth. Anyway, you get the idea, right? That's a little bit too much. Let me go back. I'm just going to pull the opacity down a bit. Okay, now I'm done. There you go. I'm not going to export it again, but I just wanted to give you that one extra thing that I saw as I was editing, or when I looked at the final edit. All right, let's go over here to Joanne. So we have, a little pond here with some speculars. So let me apply, hold on. Let me download the optics module. Oops, there we go. Okay, let's see. The composition here is almost, it's really tricky because you have sort of this dominant, flower here, then this tree, then this house in this sort of diagonal. It'd have been nice to have a little more separation between these three. Then that would have created some really nice depth to the image, I think. But let me just go over here and just click on perspective. No, that's not going to do it. And just check. I wonder if I can just fill the frame a little bit more. I think that's a little better. I don't want to have too much sky. Okay. Just a slight tilt. I'm just using this chimney here as a guide. Okay, I think that works right there. So let's go to the local adjustments. I don't know if I want to do... Let's see if we can do it this way. And add a little warmth. Okay. And then let's make a new mask for this guy. We'll use this rectangle tool. This needs some clear view and contrast. And some color. Okay. I wonder if I can use the same mask for... Not really. Let's make a new one. So I'm going to do a little bit with the speculars here on the water, or these little streams. Okay. It's a little bit here. Okay, that's good enough. Okay. And then let's brush in. Let's see if we can bring out some of the color with a brush. I'm gonna crank my flow up this time. Okay, a little bit there. A little bit more there. And then let's make a new brush. I'm just doing it manually. Let's make the water a little bit darker. A little shinier. Okay. All right, let's bring out one more thing, the house. Let me try the rectangle tool. It's a bit too much, but okay. And a new brush. This time I'm going to turn the flow back down, maybe 20%. Oops. Let's use a little bigger brush. Maybe an auto selection brush. Let me try it this way. Just want a little more warm light on the front. Can probably do the same thing in here. Okay. A little bit here. Okay, and I'm going to try and darken this grass. Let me see if the AI tool will grab it. Oops. A little bit there and there. Okay. Good. Let's check the sky. A bit of clear view, contrast. No, let's not pull the highlights. Let's do it this way. Okay. And another mask, another AI tool. Let's select this wall. Same thing. Let's just bring that down a bit. Go back to this mask. Try a control point. Just see what this does. Okay. All right, I think that's it. Let me export this. And we'll compare it. All right, so here's the original, right? Really, I just added some contrast and brought out some more of the colors. And then a little tighter framing, I think, emphasizes the three main things that I see here. This flower, this tree, this house, right? I think that works. This framing works a little better than just bringing out the colors in the water and the speculars of the little streams. So this would be a cool place to go back to and try different compositions. Because the way this one is, it's almost there. It's almost there. You know, for me. And again, I'm just being subjective here. You know, this might be awesome, but for me, if I were composing this shot, I would have tried to work this depth here a little bit more. Okay, let's go to the next one here. We have a cityscape, and definitely need to correct for this. Gosh, this is a really interesting building here. It looks very a lot like Star Wars, like something you would see in Star Wars. All right, let's apply. Oops, let's first Let's get the optics module. The 50 to 200. Wow. Nice lens. That's an oldie, right? The 50 to, this is not the new 50 to 200. This is the old 50 to 200. Okay, let's try a perspective thing. Yeah, that works. Oh, now let's apply the basic preset. Sorry. Now that I got the optics module downloaded, now let me do the perspective thing. And then it needs a little bit of a tilt back. Perfect. That line, it needs to be a little bit. Just doesn't feel quite straight. Maybe there. Okay. All right. Now there's a lot of haze in this image, so I could probably just click clear view and add some micro contrast. And that'll take care of a lot of it. Let's add some saturation, maybe vibrancy. And then it's a little bit warm. So like I said, I'm looking at exposure and composition and white balance. The white balance is a little bit cool. So let's pick this building. I'm sure this building is silver. Let me zoom in. Right about there. Let's get a little bigger radius. If I pick this or this? No, let's pick this one. Okay. Because it is a little bit, the sun is a little bit low in the sky based on the shadows there. So we want it to be a little warmer. Let's add some more micro contrast. Let's push the blacks a little bit of a pull. No. Okay, now the composition, I think, could benefit from just going this way. Right about there. And then I'm going to add some just regular contrast maybe. I didn't really have to do too many local adjustments because all the details are very, very fine here. And go back to the color. I'm going to emphasize just certain colors. Let's try, I'm going to use the eyedropper here. Let's try these sort of reddish oranges and do that. And then I'm going to add just a little more detail to this building. So let's select this. Let's try the rectangle tool. Yeah, let's do that. This needs some more sort of contrast on its own. Am I getting, what is this white line here? Is that something I just did? No, that's correct. Yeah, it's a little bit of spacing there. Okay. Now let's check some of the fine details here. Just a little bit there. And let's try. Okay, good. All right, the sky. I don't know. Let me see if I can select the sky. I want to. Yeah, not bad. I need to. Let's create a submask because it selected a little bit of the building too. So I'm going to create a submask and just get rid of that. Oh, too much. Use a little bit smaller. There we go. I think it's selected up here too. Maybe this auto masking brush will work. Whoops. Not great. Oh, let me do. All right, let me just leave that the way it is for now. Hold on. Let me go back to this. What I want to do is just desaturate this part. And maybe give it a little bit of highlight push. So I need to figure out how I'm going to get this part. Yeah, this is the brush that's messing it up. Let me get rid of that one. Whoops. Create a submask. Let's get another brush. A little bit smaller. And just fix that. Okay. Good enough. All right. Let me see where we're at. Yeah, let's export that. Oh, hey, X-Meta, this is your photo, huh? A luminosity mask, maybe, Paul. I think the problem is the luminosity on the building is very similar to, parts of the building is very similar to the sky. So that's why I just went with an AI mask. But you're right. I mean, we could have tried a luminosity mask, but I think it would have overlapped the building even more than just using the AI tool in this case. So let's reset this and do a side by side. Okay, so yeah, I think that came out pretty nice. I like this vertical composition so that it's just this building. There's not enough, this is a separate picture down here because all these buildings are really interesting by themselves, individually and as a group together. But I think the main composition is right here with this building. And I cropped the bottom just so that I got this line of buildings right here to kind of be in the bottom, and they're sort of the brightest buildings in the frame at the bottom. So that was my rationale for down here, is this row. And then of course this one just front and center, right? Or, rule of thirds, a little bit off to the right. And then desaturate the sky because I was getting all kinds of weird colors in that. So I just desaturated it. And we can do sort of a slider just to kind of check the finer details. But I think, yeah, now you can see people standing in here, looks like. Really interesting building. Like I said, it's almost like a Star Wars. And if we go down into down in here, we're getting some heat distortion in here. But overall, I think it came out pretty nice. Okay, let's go to the next one. And cool. This is supply basic preset. And let's do a quick crop. I think a square crop on this one would look good. Maybe this way. No, let's stay with a 4x3. Let's go with that. And let's select the duck. And just add a bit, about a half a stop. Add a little bit of vibrancy. Maybe a little warmth. And let's go into the eyes. So we'll make a new mask, control point. Just come in there. Add some shadows, some clear views, some micro contrast. Just back that off a bit. Okay. And we need to, there's a little bit of blue down here that I want to emphasize. So let's just do another control point. Maybe add a little more saturation or vibrancy. Okay. Now let's fix the water. Make a new mask for that. Let's try the AI tool. Yep, that looks good. Just do some clear view again. Pull the blacks in. Maybe cool it off a little bit. Just about 500 Kelvin. A little bit of green. No. Magenta. No. Maybe not quite that cool. Right about there. And maybe, let me submask, see if I can select that too. We don't really need all of that. Whoops, wrong one. Let's try. No, let's try control line. I just want this to be a little bit darker. Right about there. Okay. All right. I'll go over here to the global, see if I can just make the speculars a little bit more specular. And another control point. Sorry, I'm moving pretty fast on these because I have so many today and I have to do something at 11:30. I just want to brighten this up a little bit more. Maybe this side too. Okay, let me go back to the duck's head. Let's just pull this out a bit. Right about there. Okay, one more quick on the check on the fine details. That's looking pretty good. Just give it a tiny bit more. Okay, let's export that. Okay, we'll just compare these side by side. All right, so here's the original, and there's my edit. It's a little bit bright. I could probably darken this a little bit more. Because when I brighten the speculars, I accidentally brightened the highlights here. But I think overall, I think this is a little more interesting image with the reflections and the spray of the water, right? So and then just minimizing all of this stuff around the bird. Okay, very good. Thanks for sending that one. That was from Tom. So Tom, I would just maybe not brighten this area right here quite as much when I go back to it. All right, let's see. We have one here from William. Okay, we have a landscape. Very cool. There's some reds down here. Let me get my basic preset in first. We're going to have to warm up this image quite a bit. So white balance is like one of the first things I look for. Yeah, that's better. And composition-wise, we're almost there. Gosh, I feel like I've seen this canyon before. This corner, having a little problem with this bottom right corner here. Because it doesn't, yeah, that's better. All right. And let's fix the sky a little bit. So I'll just AI tool that, give it some clear view, some micro contrast. And then we're going to lightly brush around. Let's see. That looks about right. So again, I'm just trying to layer the image a little bit with some light. Okay. And then this whole front face, let's do a little bit less flow. Something like that. A little bit more at the top. A little more fill here and here. Okay, let's work on the architecture or these little houses. I just want to brighten these up a bit. Let's see. Yeah, and then a little saturation maybe. Let me see. This one. Okay. This one needs a little less. Let me just add a submask. Just get rid of that spot. Okay. Because I was getting a little bit of, I don't know, some artifacts in that one. Okay. And then let's do a little bit with the water. Just add some clear view. And cool it off a little bit. Some micro contrast. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Yeah. All right, let's do that. Okay, so just a slight crop. Like I said, this corner was bothering me a little bit. I kind of like to make sure the corners have, you know, a leading line of some kind that isn't broken apart. It's a little bit broken here between this water, this grass, and here. So I just wanted to get just the sidewalk or this path in there. And then of course, just emphasizing the high, this is a really nice accent here in the photo. This very strong red. And then highlighting the water, and then just painting a little bit of light here and there where it is actually in the photo. Because if you look at the original, you can see there's, you know, these areas are brighter, but I just exaggerated that a little bit to, again, just create some sort of depth to the photo. But I think that came out pretty good. And we got nice detail, you know, just to kind of compare to the original. You know, we got rid of all the noise and brought out all the detail in the rocks, as you can see. And this is why I use DxO, right? It just does such a wonderful job effortlessly. Okay, I turned the dawn into day. I did, but I think the white balance is way off. Okay, so let's apply a basic preset. So we have a crow here. This is either an American crow or a fishing crow. I can't tell the difference visually. You can hear the difference. So let's just come in here. There's not much else going on in the frame. And then go back here to the AI tool. Let's select the bird. And let's see if we can bring out some of the details. A little bit of clear view and some micro contrast. Okay, and then just a little bit more on the eye. I always like the face and the eyes to kind of stand out. And we'll do the beak, so I'll just use the auto masking brush. And let's give that some clear view first. Push some of the speculars like that. And then let's just brush out a little bit of these branches. Maybe right there. Oh, we might have to go all the way out. A little bit more feathering. If we do clone, cloning works better. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of an artifact here. I'm not sure why. Okay, now it's gone. Just needed to update. All right, let's do a little bit on the feet. Maybe the auto brush again. I just need some micro contrast there, I think. Just a little bit of push on the speculars. Okay. Oh. Okay, I think that's it. So let me export that. Well, let's check the fine detail real quick. Okay, not bad. Let's see if we can just push it a little bit. Let's try with some unsharp mask. Okay, good. Almost done. One more to go. And I think I saw, Garrett, you sent in your edit of this, I think. So we can compare that. Oops. All right, so yeah, here's the original. This is my edit here. And we can kind of zoom in and just check the fine details. If I tend to over sharpen a bit sometimes, but overall I think it did a good job, you know, with the sharpening and denoising. But now we got really good detail in here, right? We can see all the individual feathers of this crow. Okay, and then I think I set this as a reference. Whoops. I think Garrett sent theirs in. It's this one. Oh, very nice, Garrett. I like it. Really nice, soft image. We did a lot of the similar things, right? We brightened up the face and the beak. But you went with a much, much lower contrast. I love it. Really, really nice. My edit looks pretty good until I see your edit, right? I like your edit too. Much softer. Much, much softer. I love it. Okay. Let's go to the last one here from Paul. Okay. We have, I forget what kind of hawk this is called, but these are really, really nice, beautiful birds. Let's apply basic preset. And let's just come in like so. Let's go ahead and select the bird. I think the bird just needs some micro contrast. And then we'll brighten the face because it's a little bit far out to really work individually too much. But we'll just brighten it up a little bit. Throw in some vibrancy, particularly the yellows. And let's go to a control line. And let's tighten up the Luma mask a little bit. Let's back off. What I'm going to do is just maybe go darker. No, let's go brighter. Maybe add some warmth. Then do the opposite on this side. Just go a little darker and make it a little cooler. Okay, and then let's pick the bird again. I'm going to make the bird a little bit warmer overall. Now let's just check the fine details. Let's come in a little tighter because this is zoomed out pretty far. Tiny bit more here. Let's try a little unsharp mask. Yeah, I think that's good. All right. And then maybe just a dash of light with some control points. Let's make a little bit tighter chroma. Just push the highlights a bit. Here and here. And add a little bit of warmth. Okay, we'll call it there. . . 。 . 。 . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . and reset up. Okay, so there's the original. So I had to crop in quite a bit, but it's a great shot. Nailed it. So all I did was just add a little bit of light to the bottom here, and we can kind of zoom in and see how we did on the details. But I think it came out pretty good. I think I saw you said, Paul, you sent your edit in. Okay, so let's go to. Let me see what's come in since I've been on for a couple hours here. Oh, there's a couple edits. There's one there from Serge. Oh, I only got 5. I got at 11:30. I really have to go. I'm sorry, Serge. I'm not gonna be able to do yours today. And then Tom sent his edit in, it looks like. So we'll do a quick edit comparison. Why? Okay, download. And I'll have to save yours till next week, Serge. I'm sorry. All right. So let's set mine as a reference. Whoops. So this is my reference image. And then I think this is Paul's edit. So, okay, so you said you weren't really happy with yours, right? And I can see what you're saying. Basically, the sky is not blending too well with the bird. It almost looks like a cut and paste, right, of the bird onto a blue background. And but you did a lot of the similar things here. Could have brightened the face up a little bit more. But yeah, I'm very conscious of, like, getting artifacts. If we compare like the tail, you have a little bit of haloing here, a little more than I do on mine, because I didn't try to darken the sky quite as much. And if we go to the front, yeah, you definitely over sharpened a bit. So I would back off some of the sharpening. That looks like an unsharp mask over sharpening. Because all of the fine feather details are kind of blocked off. So it looks like the unsharp mask, you might have dialed in too many pixels or something there. But other than that, it's very, very similar edit, right? Same crop, basically. All right, and then there was one other comparison. I think this is Tom's edit, and then this was my edit. So Tom went front and center, looks like. And where's the original? Yeah, that's the original. So you didn't really do much with the water. But the crop is fine. But when you compare it to mine, I kind of went crazy with the water and getting rid of all the background. But and then I brightened the face a little bit more, and I did add some saturation. The only thing is this part right here, the highlights are a little bit hard. I would go back and soften this a little bit. But okay, very good. But good processing otherwise, I mean, it's all good, but I just really good sharpening and good deal. Good, yeah, you got some really good detail out of this. But it's always interesting to see what other people's edits compared to what I did, usually what ends up happening is mine looks over processed compared to what you guys do sometimes, right? But you know, I do tend to exaggerate my editing a little bit for the live streams. I do the best I can, but I always end up over editing the photos because I'm trying to demonstrate, what can be done and to what extremes, right? Uh, but anyhow, thanks everyone for sending your images in. It's always a lot of fun to see what you guys shoot and different locations. It's really great to see Prague and that Star Wars looking building. I never seen that before. That was cool. And of course, all the birding and wildlife I love and the landscapes. So you guys have a wonderful weekend. Have a great day. You do that every day, you have a good life, right? And I want you to eat healthy and exercise this weekend. Go out and take some photos. And I'll be back on Sunday for my normal editing stream. And Ellie's here. She's here to say goodbye, right?